Hi everyone, my name is Julian, you can call me Gio, and welcome back to another video. Today's video, the mood is much less serious, much less somber. I just wanted to sit down, press record on the camera, set up the tripod. There's some really nice natural light outside today. But today we are leaving behind the chamber of reflection and we're going to take a trip down memory lane, and I'm going to talk to you about the books that I feel have shaped my young adulthood. Now, it is not lost on me that I'm only 21 years old and I have a lot of life left to live and all that other corny bullshit. But up until these points, these are the books that have stuck with me and have shaped me as I move through the world. Let's just go with that. Anyways, the reason why I say young adulthood and not my entire life is that even though I think I became a very voracious reader, like reading 100 books a year around age 11. I don't know when you're supposed to be in fifth grade, but I think I was 11. I had a booktube channel. I was reading a lot. I was reading everything I could get my hands on, from the library to ebooks to EPUBs. If you know about downloading EPUBs off the internet, you're real as hell. But I was a very voracious reader and I was really reading anything that I could get my hands on. But I feel like at that age, especially since I got into reading in the mid 2010s, YA was everything. You couldn't turn the corner without seeing a YA book. What was it? Fairy Crew, Illumicrate, all of these things were out there on booktube and out in the world. And I don't know why at that age I thought that I was bigger than the program, but I started reading a lot of books that I didn't really get and that I didn't really understand, just because I was like, oh my god, why is it's not doing it enough for me. When pretty much what happened, number one, it sort of started to become a chore, and number two, I just wasn't liking a lot of the things that I was reading. And then eventually I fell out of love with the habit, and then I started playing video games and doing other things, watching reality TV. So I lost touch with that sort of era of what I was reading. And then I would say that now a lot of the books that I loved at that time don't really stick with me or reflect the person that I am today. So that's why that is. And a very quick commentary is that if you are just getting into reading now, especially with the current literary canon on TikTok, that everybody reads classic books and they don't write books like they used to, and you just need to read the classics. I don't mean to be a hater, but I'm going to be a hater. And I think that argument just goes to show how not well read a person is, because they only read things from the past, and that is entirely fine. But to say that the books that are being written now, they're just not good and they're not emotional and they're not deep. You don't read. You do not read. And if that causes controversy or if that causes something in the comments, that's okay. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like a lot of the books that have survived those canons and are really being popularized now, especially by TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, these algorithms and all of these boutique publications that are coming out. Maybe not the boutique ones, but the legacy publications. A lot of the books that are being talked about over and over and over again center the same perspectives, center the same type of economic backgrounds. They're not diverse at all. And even though they do have a lot of themes based on the human experience and love and relationships and all that stuff, there is a lot missing from that canon. And I feel like those people that say that, it's baby, I know you don't read. I know you don't read. And I feel like that makes reading such a serious thing. Girl, this is supposed to be fun. Something good and fun for the summertime. And I say that as somebody who loves to read classics, but I love to read my fun books too. I think y'all's books need to have a little more, if you get what I'm saying, you get what I'm saying. And I would say that now as a reader, I don't really care to read as much as I can or read as quickly as I can or read as many books as I can in an entire year. Right now, my goal is to read a book a month, because I've noticed that when I spend time trying to really internalize or just spend time with the book that I'm reading, I end up liking everything that I read, which I think that there's nothing better than that, because I haven't given a book 2 stars in years. Anyways, I'm going to talk about each book for a minute or two and just say how old I was when they came into my life, how they shaped me, and then move on to the next one. And my final note is that if you're going to pick up any of these books and you end up loving them or you end up not loving them, just know that that's okay. Read the books that you want when you want. I'm a very big believer that a lot of things come into your life exactly when you need them. So maybe you watch this video, you pick up one of these books and they change your life. We love it. But just don't force yourself to do anything. Don't force yourself to do a 24-hour reading challenge if you don't want to. Just do you. The first book I'm going to talk about is Heaven Official's Blessing, Volume 1 by MXTX. This is probably one of the most beloved BL, Danmei, wuxia novels out there. And when I was a senior in high school, I was really getting into that genre of web novels, web comics, webtoons, manga, all those things, BL, K-dramas. And this is one of those books that always stood out to me. And when I saw people raving about it so much, I was like, you know what? There has to be something here. I went to my library. They had the first book. I ate this book up in I think 2 or 3 days. I went back and I told them, hey, I want to read the second book. Can you buy it? And they bought it. And I remember reading that second book because this is such a slow burn story, like slow burn. In the second book, I remember being at a family member's house on an air mattress while everybody else was talking around me, and I was reading the book like this, geeking over the slightest thing, the smallest thing. This book is a romance like no other. I want to be loved how they're being loved in this book. Like I just can't begin to describe it. Anyways, to give you a really quick synopsis of this follows a god, Julian. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And basically in this world, you are a person who cultivates like spiritual energy. And when you have enough of that and you do good deeds, you get to ascend to the realm of the gods. But our main character ascended, fell, and now he's ascending for the third time. And in his stories and in his adventures, he gets tangled up with Hua Cheng. Basically, all of the gods fear him, all of the spirits fear him, everybody fears him. He is the most powerful ghost in the realm of the ghosts. And every time I think about explaining more about this book, like I'm just at a loss for words. It is so good. I think there was supposed to be a drama adaptation of this in China, but it got canceled because of their crackdown on BL media. I'm so sad. I am so sad. I think the name of it was Eternal Love or Eternal Devotion. It's a 1,000-year love story. It's over 1 million words long. I have all 8 books, but I was reading them so quickly that I had to stop until I have all of the books, and then I never picked them up again. And the reason why this series is so special to me, even though I just raved about it for the past like 2 minutes, is that when I graduated high school and I got my first job, this is the first series of books that I started buying full price. And before that, when I got into reading, I was never really able to buy the books that I wanted. And I don't want to say that I was limited, but I kind of was. I could only buy books from thriftbooks.com when they were like $4 or $3.99. I can only buy books from the thrift store when they were $1. Or I can only get books from the library. And reading this series and being able to read something that I found like so dear and so like groundbreaking, and being able to afford it with my own money and having that independence to read a story like this was just, it was everything. I think everybody should read this. It's so well written. It's so enthralling. It's so good. Read it. I'm making this video like I'm having so much fun. Like, this is so good. The next book I'm going to talk about is not as happy as Heaven Official's Blessing, but nevertheless, that is Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. This is actually the Spanish copy of the book. This is how I read the book digitally from my library. And I'm covering the cover very strategically. I don't know why the Spaniards did this to my girl, but this doesn't happen in the book what I'm supposed to be covering right now. Ooh. But anyways, this story just follows a young girl who recently lost her grandmother. And in the beginning of the book, she finds herself sleeping in the kitchen because that's, I guess, where she feels most connected to her grandmother. And in the beginning of this novella, which is split into 2 parts, she essentially finds a found family of her own. And she sort of finds that love for life again through cooking, through kitchen, through family, through connection. This is one of the most simple but beautiful books that I've ever read. And I read this at a time where I was still dealing with a lot of grief over something that happened to me. Nobody passed away, but I was just grieving a past version of myself. And when I read this book and I saw true healing, and I saw that healing is not necessarily a straight line, and that even that when you start to grow and heal, you can be brought down again. When I saw that, it really opened the world for me, and I feel like it really let me close part of that chapter, and it really set me on a path to healing. And I'll always be really grateful for this book. I think it's so simple but so beautiful. I'm gonna put a picture of the English cover up right now, so if you ever see it at a bookstore, you know to check it out. I think it's one of the most beautiful and impactful books I've ever read, and I'll always hold it very dear. Next up, we have the book that finally got me back into reading classics, and I'll explain that more a little bit later, but that book is Beware of Pity by Stefan Zweig, or Zweig. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. This book is a book like no other. When I finished it back in 2023, I posted a TikTok about it. To this day, it's my most viewed TikTok. I think it has like 13,000 views. Rich, famous. Don't step. This book follows a lieutenant who's stationed in a small town in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and this lieutenant is very bored with his life, and one day he gets invited to, like, I don't want to say the mayor or like someone of the aristocracy, but he gets invited to the house of the richest man in this town, basically the man who owns industry, who owns the biggest house. And when he goes to that party, he goes to that man's daughter and asks her to dance. But the thing with her daughter is that she's unable to walk because of a disability that she has, and she gets supremely offended like no other. Anyways, the lieutenant feels so bad for the girl that he wants to go back and apologize to her, and he sort of develops a friendship with her. And the underlying feeling between the plot of everything that goes on in this book is pity. This book is essentially an exploration and a meditation of the word and of the feeling and the emotion of pity and guilt. It talks about the lengths that we'll go to be accepted and loved by others, even if it's at the expense of somebody else. And it sort of takes the stance that pity, even though is a very well-intentioned emotion, can actually be very destructive both for you and the person that you're pitying. And I don't want to tell you anything else in case you decide to read it. This is actually Stefan Zweig's longest book. I think it's about 350 pages, but let me tell you, this is 350 pages of book that you are going to have to pay attention to. I tabbed a lot of it, I underlined a lot, I learned a lot of different words while I was reading this book, and I would have to say there is no book like this out there. Like, I have never read a book that so masterfully encapsulates one thing and one thing all throughout, and it's not boring. The writing is super engaging, the characters are engaging. I just don't know what to tell you about this book except that you have to read it, because I feel like if you read it and you give it time to work with you and you work with it, you're going to come out of it like, whoa. I wish I had more to say. If you want to hear my entire thoughts, go to my TikTok at Julian's Online and find that short form review. But this book right here, like no other. These last three books I'm kind of gonna rapid fire because they all share the same theme as to what they did for me as a person, and that is that they set me on a path of getting to where I am now, but also they set me on a path of healing, spirituality, of intentionality, of being more present in the moment. And the first book in that trilogy of books is The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. This was actually the first book that we were supposed to read at book club at work. I was the only one who read the book. Everybody else thought it was extremely boring. Nobody else liked it. Y'all, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Anyways, the plot of this book is very simple. It follows 4 women who live in London who have pretty much never met, but one day they see an ad in the newspaper that you can rent out this beautiful Italian riverside or seaside castle, essentially, which I think it was like £300 or something. And when they start off this book, the setting of the book is very drab, very gray. It's always raining, and these women are just very unhappy with their lives because of the roles being placed on them for being women in London at that time. And essentially they pull the money together, they leave their husbands, they leave their responsibilities, and they go to this castle, this Riviera in Italy for an entire month. And that's essentially what happens in the book. They go there, they disconnect, and I feel like this book really highlights like what it means to really be a person, and essentially what it means to be a woman away from the responsibilities placed on you to be a woman or to be a person, or the things that people expect of you versus the things that you want. And it also really paints idle time and time of rest and time of reset in a very, very positive light. And when I tell you that everybody at work was bored when they read this book, I mean that because nothing really happens. I'm going to tell you up front, nothing really happens, but this is a book that you have to be okay with nothing really happening, because that's kind of the point. The point is they're not doing anything, they're being away, and they're letting the magic of this really green, blue, luscious, fresh space work on them. And I remember when I was reading this book towards the end, which is where most of my tabs lie, I was reading this book right here on this bed. I woke up, I think it was a Saturday or a Sunday, and I had maybe like 80 pages left of the book. It's not a very long book, it's like 220 pages. I had some pages left. I sit down and I open the book and I read it all in one sitting. And when I finished it, I had such a big smile on my face. And when I finished it, I just sat there with that smile. I let that peace and what the characters were feeling flow through me. And what this book did for me is show me that there's no need to rush in life to attain success. There's no need to rush in life. And that it is entirely okay to just sit down and smell the roses, literally. Like, just sit down, chill. I know that a lot of people have this sort of view that, oh my God, like, if you separate your life into blocks, this is how many years you have, as opposed to how many years the earth has been here. But what we seem to forget is that you still need to experience every second of that 80 years today, in the present, yesterday, tomorrow, and today. And that it's okay sometimes to not be on the perfect timeline, and that it's okay to be intentional with wanting to do nothing. That is perfectly okay, because You're gonna get back to it. It's momentary, but just enjoy it while you're there. And I feel like after that reading experience, I was like, okay, like I need to recontextualize what's important to me in my life, who's important, what's I'm willing to pursue. And it did a lot for me. And I feel like after that, like it set me on the right path. Second to last, we have The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. This is a book that I feel for a lot of people is misunderstood because it's like a red flag book if you're on a date with a guy and he says, my favorite book is The Catcher in the Rye because I relate to Holden Caulfield so much. I've never heard anybody say that. However, I also relate to Holden Caulfield. But wait. Not in that way. I do see how sometimes like that could be annoying because it's not a character that you're supposed to relate to and like. And essentially, this book just follows a very jaded teenager, Holden Caulfield, as he escapes his prep school and goes to New York for a few days. And I'm not going to tell you more. There's literally no synopsis on any edition that you find of this book. And I read this book in high school, and I read it in a day, and I was like, I don't get it, but it was okay. And I read it again, now being 21 a few months ago. And a lot of people criticize this book because Holden is very pretentious, because his mind runs around in circles a lot, because he complains about everything. But when you really look at the type of person that Holden is, it makes perfect sense. He is a jaded young man riddled with anxiety, who's struggling with depression, who has pretty much no will left to live. He doesn't want to do anything because he doesn't care to live. Of course, he's going to complain about everything. And he even realizes that he goes on and on and on about small things. And the reason why I related to that is because I've been there too. And I guess the reason why this shaped me is because it sort of shows me that because it sort of showed me to give myself grace the same way that I gave Holden grace. Because once I saw what he was going through, even though I don't agree with some of the things that he says or some of the things that he does, that's just what happens. Sometimes that is just what happens. And I feel like if you go into this book, go into it with an open mind. This is not a book that, despite being very short, you should not read this in a sitting or in a day because it is very inundating and very taxing on the mind. But that's kind of the point. And if you're going to see, and if you notice, there is a pattern that with all of these books are not necessarily your traditional stories, but that's the point. Last but definitely not least, the last book that I feel has really shaped who I am as a person that I've read recently is Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. This is another book that I did a short form review on TikTok, so go watch it if you'd like. I think it'd be a disservice to you to really try to summarize the plot of this book, because what happens in this book and the importance of this book is not in the plot, but what the plot reveals to you. So I would just say, read the synopsis on the back, go into it, and this is another one that you really have to take your time with. And this is essentially, like I said, a fictionalized version of the life of the Buddha. And it's kind of like an abridged version of his teaching with some of Hermann Hesse's influences intertwined into it. And the reason why this book is so impactful to me specifically is that it really set me on a course. It really set me on a course to understand myself spiritually. And every time that I finish this book, I read this book once in high school and once again as an adult. Every time I finish this book, I feel like this book has fundamentally done something to me on a scale bigger than the mental and the physical. And it truly feels like a spiritual reading experience finishing this book and really internalizing what it is that it has to say. And for that, I do have to give a lot of thanks to Hermann Hesse and his writing, because it really does bring you a peace that you won't find in a lot of different aspects of life. And that's why this book is so important and so big to me. Anyways, there you have it. These are the books that have shaped my young adulthood thus far. As you can see, a lot of these books tend to get very serious after I graduated high school. But now that with this chapter being done, I feel like I can get back into reading books like this and really just enjoying the funner things in life, because these books are fun. These books are good for the soul, and together, chef's kiss. Anyways, I've been recording for long enough. That's all that I have to say for today. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more from me, please be sure to leave a like and to subscribe and check out any of these books if you're interested. And always remember to read what you want. Bye.